There was an unmarked radio station hidden in the Appalachian foothills, a relic of an age when signals were sparse and the voices that rode them belonged to real people, not syndicated hosts. Nobody remembered who built it. Nobody remembered what it was for. Only one fact endured. The broadcast never stopped. In 1972, two hikers stumbled upon the single-story structure while following a creek that had carved through limestone and oak for millions of years. In the quiet stillness of late autumn, they heard music drifting through the trees, a faint waltz that seemed at once achingly beautiful and horribly out of place. Curious and chilled, they approached. Through grimy windows, they saw studio lights still burning. A reel-to-reel tape spun on its spindles, threading a constant loop of music, static, and whispers. Dust layered over the equipment, cobwebs hung like curtains, but the broadcast was alive. One of the hikers, a young man who fancied himself an adventurer, joked that the place was haunted. His companion laughed and tried the door. It swung open. Inside, the air was stale. Shelves of vinyl and old ads lined the walls. An analog clock on the far wall ticked, the second hand moving in halting clicks. There was no electricity. No generator thrummed. Yet the sound continued. The tape rolled. The red on-air light glowed like an eye half opened in sleep. They stepped in, not noticing when the music shifted and the whispers became clearer. The voices did not belong to anyone they knew. They said things that were half true and half nonsense, and whenever the hikers tried to pinpoint the speaker, the words would meld back into static. Then the reel slowed, the pitch dipped, and a woman's voice cut through as if she were standing right behind them. "Why are you here?" The hikers spun, hearts hammering, but there was no one in sight. Only the equipment and the smell of mildew. The voice repeated, "Why are you here?" They fled. In their panic, the young adventurer tripped on the threshold and broke his arm. His friend dragged him away, back into the woods. They did not stop until they reached town. When they told locals about the strange station, elders stared and then muttered prayers. A man at the bar whispered that the station had been built for emergency broadcasts during the Cold War, but the engineers vanished one winter and nobody ever turned it off. Others insisted the station had been there far longer than any Cold War. A waitress who had grown up in those hills said her grandmother told stories about a singing ghost who lured travelers into the woods. No one offered to go with them to check. Days later, the young adventurer awoke at night to the faint strains of that waltz leaking through his apartment walls. He turned on the radio and spun the dial. At 108.0 FM, there it was, the same song, the same static, the same whispers. He threw the radio across the room. His friend returned to the station alone, determined to prove it was some elaborate prank. He brought tools and a flashlight. The waltz played faintly again, drawing him in. Once inside, he saw the tape still turning. He switched off the machine. The reel stopped. The studio went silent. Then, from the speaker on the desk, the woman's voice spoke. "Why are you here?" This time, he answered honestly. "I wanted to understand." "Do you think you understand now?" He shook his head, forgetting she could not see him. His voice trembled. "Who are you?" Silence stretched, and then, like a sigh, static filled the room. Words emerged. "We are everyone who listens. We are everyone who speaks." He pressed his hand against the console. It was warm. "Leave before the hour changes," the voice said. He ran. Behind him, the on-air light flickered, once, twice, then steadied. The waltz resumed. When he reached his car, he did not look back. He moved to another state a month later and never told anyone why. The young adventurer tried to track him down the next year, but his letters went unanswered. For decades, the station transmitted through storms and droughts, past the rise of cable and the internet, past the introduction of smartphones and streaming. People who lived within a certain radius, defined not by miles, but by some intangible boundary, would occasionally stumble upon the frequency late at night. At first, it seemed like any community station: old songs, local news, call-ins. Then, as the hour approached midnight, the content changed. The songs slowed, voices layered, and the woman's question returned. "Why are you here?" Those who answered honestly heard their secrets played back in whispers. Those who ignored the question found themselves unsettled, unable to sleep, haunted by a sense of being watched. Because the broadcast seemed harmless at first, it gathered a cult following online. In 2004, a college student with a taste for urban exploration posted about it on a forum. His thread described driving through the mountains, scanning frequencies, finding the waltz. He had recorded the woman's question. He uploaded the audio. Within days, thousands of users listened and insisted they heard their own names, whispered in the static. Some claimed they heard messages meant specifically for them, reminders of things they had done and things they regretted. The original poster, whose username was signal_seeker, never returned to the forum. Others who tried to trace the source of the broadcast discovered the approximate location of the station, but posted little detail beyond that. People joked that the station was a numbers station for ghosts. Then, on a warm night in May 2010, a truck driver named Henry flipped through channels to stay awake. His rig cut through the Appalachian darkness, headlights reaching only as far as the next turn. He landed on the frequency at precisely 11:59 p.m. The waltz ended. The static rose. The woman's voice, smoother than silk, asked him, "Why are you here?" He laughed. "Because I have to keep driving. I've got to deliver." He thought maybe it was part of a late-night talk show. "Do you love your route?" the voice asked. He shrugged, forgetting this wasn't a human conversation. "It's work. Pays the bills." "Do you love your family?" Henry's grip tightened on the steering wheel. His son had stopped answering his calls. His wife slept in the guest room. "Of course I do," he whispered, and realized he hadn't said those words aloud in months. "They can't hear you on this road," the voice murmured. "Turn around. Go home." He laughed again, uneasy. "I can't. I'll lose my job." "Turn around." "I can't." He flipped the dial. His favorite country station buzzed, then collapsed into static. He tried another. Static. Every frequency was now one voice telling him to turn around. Panic prickled. He kept driving, trying to outrun the signal. But as long as he stayed within that invisible boundary, the signal stayed with him. When he reached the interstate hours later, the voices stopped. He pulled over at a rest stop, heart racing, and cried. The next morning, he turned his rig around and drove back home. He hugged his son. He slept in his own bed for the first time in weeks. He never took that route again. Stories like Henry's spread through early social media, shared in comment threads and late-night chat rooms. For every story like Henry's, there were others about people who didn't turn around. People who woke to the waltz in their homes, in their phones, on TV. People who felt watched until they answered. Some embraced it, making pilgrimages to the station to leave messages outside. Others dismissed it as elaborate fiction. In 2016, a YouTube creator named Miranda decided to ride the wave of online horror with a documentary about the station. She wanted to push back against the polished, overproduced content saturating the platform. Real fear, she thought, came from things you didn't understand. She assembled a team, her camera operator friend, a sound engineer, and her brother for safety. She borrowed camping gear. She planned to stay near the station for a week, streaming live whenever possible. Her subscribers were excited. Comments poured in. Finally, someone's doing this. Bring a Geiger counter. Watch out for those voices. The night before they left, she told her audience, if anything happens, if we disappear, it will be on camera. They drove into the mountains under a sky heavy with summer thunderstorms. The last town they passed was a cluster of wooden houses, a gas station with a flickering sign, and a post office that doubled as a diner. Locals warned them. An old woman with eyes like marbles told Miranda that the station was built on a burial ground. A man in a trucker hat said his cousin's neighbor went crazy after listening too long. They smiled, shook their heads, and kept going. When they reached the station, the sight was anticlimactic. A boxy building, overtaken by ivy and moss, half sinking into the earth. The door creaked open. The waltz played, fainter than any recording had captured. They set up cameras and lights and checked their gear. The on-air light glowed, as if expecting them. Miranda began her narration, voice confident. We're here at the legendary number station, tucked away in... She stopped. The waltz sped up. Static crackled. She laughed nervously. Right on cue? Let's see if she talks to us. The first day passed with nothing but music and static. They explored the building, finding old scripts, photographs of DJs from the 60s, a lined notebook full of hand-drawn maps. Miranda live-streamed everything, the chat filling with speculation and jokes. At dusk, she decided to stay outside for a while, to film the station at night. As the sun dipped behind the trees, her camera captured fireflies blinking like a signal. At 11:58 p.m., Miranda sat cross-legged on the leaf-littered ground, her microphone and camera pointed at the doorway. The chat exploded. It's time! Ask her something! The waltz slowed. Each note stretched as if through molasses. The static rose, the unseen audience held its breath, and the voice emerged, not from within, but from all around them. Why are you here? Miranda grinned. We're here for the story. Silence. The chat lit up. Don't be cocky, someone warned. Miranda continued. We're here because people online want to know who you are. Who am I? The voice whispered, amused. Miranda shrugged. We were hoping you'd tell us. A low chuckle, like leaves rustling, drifted through the headphones. Then, I'm everything you broadcast. I'm the songs you remember, and the secrets you don't. I am voices that never reached their intended ears, ricocheting forever. I am the sum of listening. Miranda's smile faltered. Are you alive? Are you? The chat exploded with what? And run, and strings of exclamation points. Miranda swallowed. Yes. Why do you want people to watch you? Miranda blinked. The question felt invasive, personal. I enjoy sharing stories. I like connecting. Do you connect, or do you perform? Do you show people what you are, or what you think they want? Her brother looked uneasy. The camera operator shifted. Miranda's heart pounded. She thought of all the hours spent editing, scripting, reading analytics, tailoring content to trends. She thought of thumbnails and clickbait. She thought of the endless pressure to maintain relevance. Both, she whispered. Maybe both. "Turn off the camera," the voice said softly. Miranda froze. She stared at her lens, at the red recording light. The chat protested. "No." "Don't turn it off," she whispered. "If I do, they won't know what happens." "Will it matter? If you don't remember why you're doing this?" Miranda's hands trembled. Her livelihood, her identity, her community, everything depended on the audience. And yet, in the cool mountain air, she wondered when she last did something without recording it. When she last experienced anything without thinking of how to tell her followers about it. She reached forward and pressed the button. The stream ended. The comments turned into panicked messages on her social media. Subscribers speculated, some praising the bravery, others accusing her of faking it. A storm rolled in, lightning slicing the sky. Rain hammered the metal roof. Inside the station, Miranda and her team sat in the dark, listening as the voice spoke. Not to them, but around them. Through them, using their own phrases, their own laughter. Their arguments whispered after the camera was off. It played back snippets from old videos, their own voices pitched down, out of context. It asked them why they cut that segment about the elderly man they interviewed, why they never replied to certain fan mail, why they removed comments they didn't like. They answered. The conversation lasted hours. At dawn, they stumbled out, faces pale, eyes red. They loaded their gear silently. Miranda drove back through the mountains without turning on the radio. Her brother stared out the window. The road felt infinite. When they returned home, they slept for days. They checked the footage, only to find static whenever the voice spoke. The chat logs remained, a testimony to an event no one else would see. Miranda uploaded the video anyway, titled, "We went to the most haunted radio station in America, and it changed everything." The views skyrocketed. The video trended. Reaction channels dissected it. Commenters speculated about what was edited out. Many called it fake. Some unsubscribed, angry that she turned off the stream. Others applauded the authenticity. Miranda read the comments until her eyes blurred. She responded to none. She posted less. She started volunteering at a community theater. When she did film, it was for herself, for fun. Her revenue dropped, but so did her anxiety. The station had asked her the one question she had avoided. "Why are you here?" The answer changed her life. The station continued to broadcast. Some nights it played lullabies. Other nights it hissed like snakes. People in their own homes, hundreds of miles away, sometimes found the waltz, bleeding into their calls and notifications. A man watching a sports game heard, "Why are you here?" over the commentary. A teenager scrolling through his phone late at night heard it through his earbuds. They dismissed it as audio glitches. But when they couldn't sleep, the question lingered. In the winter of 2024, a group of graduate students studying folklore visited the region to document the stories. They carried digital recorders, notebooks, and skepticism. They interviewed residents who had grown up with the station's presence like a strange seasonal wind. One woman recounted how, during the blizzard of '93, the station's signal cut through the snow static to guide rescuers to stranded motorists. Another man insisted that his grandfather learned of his own father's death through a whispered message from the station. A teenager said it helped him decide to come out to his family, though he couldn't explain why. None could pinpoint whether the station was malicious or benevolent, curse or blessing. One night, the students sat near the station with their recorders, hoping to capture the voice. It did not speak at midnight. Instead, as snow fell, the static melted into a chorus of voices, singing an old Appalachian folk song about the river that had carved through rock for eons. The students wept without knowing why. The next day, they found the river had overflowed in town, and the song had carried on the emergency radio frequency, saving lives. The station's enigma endured. Some believed it a portal, others considered it a mirror, reflecting what listeners brought. What made it truly terrifying was not the potential of ghosts or supernatural influence, but the questions it asked. It forced introspection in a culture addicted to performance. It asked why we broadcast every moment, why we consume others' lives, why we anchor our worth in views and likes. It pulled back the curtain on the parasocial relationships we build with strangers and ourselves. Years passed. Technology advanced. People installed neural implants and tailored experiences. Yet, those in the boundary could still tune an old analog radio and find the waltz. The woman's question persisted, unchanged despite the times. You could ignore it, laugh it off, dismiss it as fiction. But in the quiet moments between advertisements and notifications, when the screen went dark and the world slept, you would hear it whisper, "Why are you here?" It would ask and wait. And if you listened, really listened, you might hear yourself answer,